Welcome to Revisiting the Lighting Script. As you may recall, where we left was we were only talking to the lights and we had to implement fake feedback and it really hurt my heart. So we are now ready to fix that so that we can have real-time bi-directional communication with our lighting controller and we can have real, up-to-date, actual representations of states on our UCI. This is exactly what we want to aim for. And that's why we did what we did with the video switching system and we had bidirectional feedback from the NV32. So with that, what do we need to do to make that happen? Well, one, we're going to have to figure out how to hear from the lighting controller. We're then going to have to invariably work with strings, and then we're going to take a look at the whole idea of setting up a status poll, which is really a good reason for us to talk about named timers. But as we think about communicating with third-party devices, we really need to think about how does that actually happen? And the answer is that we communicate, all devices ultimately communicate with ones and zeros on a wire. That's what they're doing. They are chirping back and forth ones and zeros. If you're old enough to remember the old days of the internet when you had to dial up and you heard all of those beeps and bloops and all of those things, that's what was going on. It literally was ones and zeros being passed down the line. Really nothing has changed. We just don't hear it anymore. That being said, what are the ones and zeros that we are sending across the line? We are sending strings. So this is a good opportunity for us to take a little brief detour into what are strings anyway. When we think about strings in Lua, as we said, they're 8-bit clean. And the way I like to think about it is that it's actually a string of characters that are concatenated together. And each individual character is a sequence of bits. And the way I particularly like to think about it, I think a good image here is the old Scrabble tile. Each one of these Scrabble tiles represents both a character in the string, but also a particular sequence of bits. That, right, you take 8 bits together to make a byte. Each Scrabble tile represents a particular 8-bit sequence, okay? So, obviously, the Q is a Scrabble tile, the S, the Y, the S is a Scrabble tile, but also think about this. That blank one, that's also a Scrabble tile. It works the same way when we think about strings properly.
I mean, it's not an official, Scrabble tile in the game, and it's going to wreck your triple word score because it's technically a 0, right? So that's bad. Then you multiply 0 by it. Don't play this way. Is all we're saying.
Okay, let's actually dive a little bit deeper into how all of this works. When we think about binary numbers, the most fundamental bit of a binary number is, well, it's called a bit, and it's either 1 or 0. If you take 8 bits together, right, an allocation of memory, that is called a byte. And the way that these allocations of memory works is you can use those allocations of memory to, well, represent different encodings. Typically, when we think about binary numbers, we think about each one of those bits representing a place value in the base 2 system. Now, we typically are familiar with the idea of the base 10 place value system because we all look forward to looking at our paycheck and we definitely pay attention to the digits in their place values. Obviously, we like the ones that are further to the left. Same idea is in play here with what does each of these place values mean. And the way that you actually evaluate the encoding, right, the binary number that is encoded here is by doing a little bit of math. This first 1 is multiplied by 2 to the 0, which gets you a 1. This one is multiplied by 2 to the first, which gets you a value of 2. 0 times 4 is 0. 0 times 8 is 0. 0 times 16 is 0. 1 times 32 is 32. And 1 times 64 gets you 64. And then when you add all of those up, you can see that what we have done is actually encode the number 99. That's an important idea. We have encoded the number 99. Now, when it comes to thinking about Scrabble tiles, we don't typically pick them based off of what number they are. We typically pick them by what letter they are. But at the end of the day, what's being done is you are simply picking an 8-bit pattern. And for example, if we take the character number 9 right here off of the keyboard, right? Boop, that one. When I choose that particular Scrabble tile, it happens to correspond, right? If I translate it down to its binary representation, that corresponds also to the same binary encoding of the hexadecimal number 39, or the same decimal number of 57. These are all boiling down to the same 8-bit realities. It's effectively 3 different languages to express the same idea. We don't call them languages, though. We call them encodings. So as we move forward, if we take the numerical character, right, here we are, number 9, the string character 9, right, boop, on the keyboard, that corresponds, as we said, to the decimal number 57, which corresponds to the 8-bit reality of 00111001. So for us to get the string 99, it means that we have to have 8 bits to get the first 9 and 8 bits to get the second 9, which we then concatenate together to get the string 99. Now here's the thing that makes the fact that Lua coerces the number 99 into being a string 99 when you just concatenate numbers, right? The part of the reason why that is such a feels like a naughty thing is that here you can demonstrably see that the string 99 is fundamentally different than the number 99. In fact, it takes twice the data, right? It takes 16 bits to capture the string 99, whereas it takes 1 8-bit, right? 1 byte of data to represent the number 99. The big idea here is that strings and numbers are fundamentally different data types because they are fundamentally allocating memory differently. Now, we've spent most of our conversation with Lua up here in the abstraction layer, and this conversation has been way down here in the abstraction layer of how computers do what they do. But it's actually really useful for why did we do all of these conversions of types, right? Why did we have to do a conversion for toString and toNumber, all that stuff? It's for this reason. And this is going to come right back up immediately as we start trying to get levels from the lighting controller, because the lighting controller necessarily is talking to us with strings. But what data type does our fader need?
Well, the fader's got value.
And values,
much like all people.
And values are what data type, Nate?
Numbers.
Numbers. So we are necessarily going to have to do a data type conversion somewhere in the work that is in front of us. And actually, if you think about it, we had to do the same thing when we were talking to the lighting controller, because when we sent the commands, what data type did we use in our array of preset levels, Nate?
In the array, those were all numbers.
Those were. And
then we converted it.
Exactly. What function did we use? Do you recall?
To string.
That was the first way that we thought about doing it, but then we decided to use string.format.
Correct.
That's right. Okay, so string.format helped us do the data type conversion as well. All right, so if this feels like a whole bunch of like syntax and like things you got to think about, the answer is welcome to programming. This is a thing, and this is just these sort of things are part and parcel of doing programming and interacting with third-party devices, which invariably you are going to have to do. And so when we talked in the past about \r, we only ever talked about it as its functional role. Its functional role was to act as the talking stick, right? The way that we knew that we were done talking to each other. But what is \r in its actuality? It's just a Scrabble tile. It's just a Scrabble tile that's actually kind of hard to grab, right? Most Scrabble tiles are really easy. They're right here on our keyboard, and it's super straightforward to punch the number 9 and get the character 9 into your string, or capital J, or whatever. Piece of cake. But some of these are not quite so easy to enter. In fact, if we go back and look at our table here, there's 127 different characters in the ASCII table, and not all of them are straightforward on how to get in. In fact, if you look at it, like the first 32 are kind of weird. They're kind of not straightforward, like how do I get them? That's what the \/ is good for. The \, much like the % operator, right, the directive that we saw when we used string.format, the \/ is called an escape character. And it serves the purpose of telling Lua, hey, I need to enter a very specific Scrabble tile. In fact, it's a Scrabble tile that isn't straightforward to me on my keyboard for how I want to grab it. But I want the Scrabble tile that corresponds to, and that's where you wind up pairing it up with a second character typically. So if I want the Scrabble tile that corresponds to hexadecimal 0D, right? If you take hexadecimal 0D and you turn it into binary, that's the Scrabble tile I want. Well, where is that on my keyboard? Oh, it's not really straightforward. Saying \r enables Lua to know, oh, that's the particular Scrabble tile you're looking for. If I want a new line, then I enter the Scrabble tile /n to get that different Scrabble tile. It has the hexadecimal value of 0A, which of course, as we've seen, all boils down to different 8-bit realities. All right, to summarize, what are strings? They are assemblies of Scrabble tiles. Many of the Scrabble tiles are very easy to pick. Some of them are a little more difficult to pick. And that's when you would use an escape character with a buddy to make an escape sequence. Now, with that, let's get back to our script.